For Sunday, April 19th, you've found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda today, the teacher cheating scandal in Atlanta. It is a drama. The Georgia Regents raised the tuition in our state colleges. And oh yeah, the Braves want you to ride bikes. Some of the stories are for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And good day this Sunday. We're glad you could be with us. There's a chance the rain is going to move out and that Monday and Tuesday might be sunny. I know that's astonishing to some of you. But we're going to begin today with the sentencing of the Atlanta teachers in the cheating scandal. It was high drama in the courtroom of Fulton County Superior Court Judge Jerry Baxter. And Phil, I'll start with you since we have differing views on this. The judge threw the book at 3 educators. And people have been joking with their teachers. Why are they calling them educators? Because some of them are administrators, right?
Well, that's right.
So 3 of them got long sentences with 7 years in prison to serve.
Well, that's right. And I have to make Judge Jerry Baxter my winner for I'll do it already, the Fulton Superior Court judge that went over this long trial, and of course the jurors that went through this long ordeal. But the jurors spoke, and it was a RICO indictment that District Attorney Paul Howard brought. I thought it was a brilliant move because all of these people turned it into a criminal enterprise. The school system was turned into a criminal enterprise. The children were betrayed, and I think these stiff sentences were merited. They had a chance. Judge Baxter and the DA said, you know, if you admit accountability and responsibility, I thought liberals were in favor of that, but they didn't do it. And so they got the book thrown at them, and it is a national message that cheating is not going to be tolerated.
Now we're playing with our bullpen here because we have Theron here with us, Theron Johnson, and we have Megan Hansen. I should say that. So I don't know where they come down on this, okay? But I just want you to note for the record, Phil Kent just praised Paul Howard.
Yeah, I was just shocked by that.
That would be an all-time first.
I think it is a first
in the history of the Georgia Gang. It's like Alexis when she's here making a white person the winner of the week. You know, it's never happened. But Theron, I'm not going to be as strong as Phil was on that. I think Judge Baxter lost his temper. He shouted at people. That's okay though. You've been through a 7-month trial like he had, with all the stuff that went on, and then the DA coming in the day or two before the sentencing and offering a deal, and the teachers and administrators still wouldn't take it. So what's your take?
Well, one thing, let's just state the facts. The jury convicted these defendants. It wasn't the judge. And Judge Baxter was pretty clear that he was going to explore the state's recommendation and pretty much pursue the harshest penalty for this for these crimes that were allegedly committed. But let's back up for a second. I think you're right, Dick. The tone in which the judge took could be perceived as being a little rude and a little harsh. And I went back and I looked at the tape, and you also got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it was a long trial, but I think that even the attorneys' tone towards the judge was a little, inappropriate. But let's move forward. I mean, the fact of the matter is that you had these teachers who were convicted by the jury. They're more than likely going to not admit guilt because they may want to appeal later. So this could go on for months and months and years. But also you had Paul Howard come forth with an option that was, some said it was a little severe, but they had the opportunity to plead. But the other thing that I want to go back to before, because I know we're going to spend a lot of time on this, is that let's go back to the origin of this whole trial and how it came about. I mean, yes, Governor Perdue at the time sort of put forward that this cheating scandal was going on, but what it really showed, Dick and Phil and Megan, is that this was sort of an over-reliance of standardized testing. You had these educators and these administrators who had a tremendous amount of pressure to quote-unquote deliver. And not saying what they did was right. It definitely was wrong if it was proved that they cheated. But it also, I think, allows the systems, not only in Atlanta, but other places, to really look at how we measure success for our children.
Megan, you're an attorney, by the way, so you actually have standing at this table. The rest of us
I'll take
don't.
it.
I don't know that Judge Baxter should be pilloried for his behavior. I mean, I think it was just sort of Southern justice, if you will, but he was being peppered by multiple defense attorneys.
He was, and I think that was completely inappropriate, the way that they responded to the judge, or, you know, lashed out at him. I think that a judge has full reign to act as he will in his courtroom within, you know, his reasonable discretion, and I think that he was passionate about this case, and I'm glad he was passionate about this case. And I think I agree with you that the way the defense attorneys acted was inappropriate, to say the least.
There's so many little details. For example, one of the educators who had been Judge Baxter's child's counselor in school, and he said, I hate to sentence you because you are a great teacher and counselor. That was very
But you know,
poignant.
you know what? If you're in a situation when your ethics are on the line, and I would leave that job. I would go to another school system. I'm not going to participate in a betrayal of these children. You've got third graders that don't know the alphabet. You got fifth graders that can't read. That's still being addressed. I mean, let's not forget that this is not a victimless crime, and the judge pointed that out. And I agree, those defense attorneys were so arrogant and smug, it made you sick.
And I mean, the real bottom line here is, you're right. You have all these children now who will be impacted for the rest of their life. And, you know, you have people who conspired to work together, knowing the fact that this is what the result was going to be for these kids.
Yeah, I want to echo on that. I mean, no one is really talking about the kids. I mean, you guys did on this show, but I mean, and Megan is right. I mean, the stigma that this case has put on graduates of the APS, and let's not forget the current students that are there now. And the other argument around this is that, look, we got to talk about class, and we got to talk about wages. I mean, a lot of these kids who were victims of this cheating were kids who come from a very low income community. And so, you know, we always want to kind of talk about the kids. Well, one of the ways to try to improve our education system is to create more jobs. And I know Phil's not going to agree with this, but we should raise the minimum wage, and we should look at different ways of how we.
Well, you're going to price minority kids out of the market by raising the minimum wage. There's study after study, but you're forgetting, Theron, that we're spending over $13,000 per student in the Atlanta public school system, and we haven't gotten anything for that, except for the fact that the late Superintendent Beverly Hall, when she was told there was cheating going on, she said, I don't want to hear about it, get out of my office. She knew darn well what was going on.
Let me wrap up this segment by pointing out there was some good reporting, interviews with the jurors, which I thought were fascinating. And one thing that jumped off the page at me was the fact that the jury thought Beverly Hall was the guilty one. And the late Dr. Beverly Hall was never tried, unfortunately, because she had breast cancer. And it's amazing how that jury came to that conclusion. So these intermediary types who were like deputy doodah superintendents and all that, they got nailed. They got nailed hard.
Well,
7 years.
It came from her office, and if you argue that she didn't know about it like our colleague Jeff Dickerson does, then she has to be the dumbest superintendent in America.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't
Phil,
go
there
that
you
far.
go.
No, I'm serious.
think
That's the Dickerson argument that she didn't know what was going
Phil, I
on.
could do
Jeff-
Darren, let me do this. Let me do this. Phil, she was a capitalist.
No.
Well,
She made
let me-
$500,000 in bonuses.
Let me be clear.
That was the criminal enterprise.
Jeff doesn't need me to defend him, but I must defend my good friend Jeff. What Jeff said on this show is you can't basically, she did not have the right to trial because she did not stand trial because she was basically dying of breast cancer. So to kind of say that she was the person who was the dumbest superintendent to put this all at her feet, I think is a little too far. However, I think the jurors did come back and say that she knew about it. But let's not forget, the person under Beverly Hall.
Well, I'm arguing that she wasn't the dumbest superintendent. I'm arguing that she knew exactly what was going on.
These defendants who were convicted, they also had a boss. And that person took a plea deal. And so I think that what you're going to see is that a lot of these folks felt like they were either misled or they were sort of pressured.
It's a shame that you're making all these excuses for these criminals.
No, Phil, I'm not. I've been very fair in my comments.
Let me end this by saying this is one of the saddest stories in my 40 years of journalism in this town.
Right.
I mean, it's really not good in any aspect of it. For example, standardized tests. Well, before that, we had the problem of kids being promoted socially just to keep them on grade level. You got to have some measurement, right, Megan?
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, and even Phil, your Republican colleagues just this last week voted in the U.S. Senate to basically revisit the No Child Left Behind. And guess what's at the center of this reauthorization they're looking at? Standardized testing.
I understand all of that, but that has nothing to do with what happened here in Atlanta.
It has everything to do with what
you still
happened
have to have standards and accountability. Even
we
your
gotta get
liberal
out.
friends agree with that.
These defendants were pressured to basically deliver through these CRCT tests so they can get the
So
incentive.
teach
have to
the
get out.
children how to
I
read
agree with
and
that.
let them pass the test on merit,
But my point,
not by
Megan,
cheating and
my
conspiracy.
point, Megan, is that we've got to revisit the federal law, No Child Left Behind, which you guys don't really like to talk about because this was a Bush initiative.
We don't mind
I don't-
tweaking
I
the
don't
law.
like
that. We gotta get
that's great propaganda. I don't mind tweaking laws.
That's just facts.
We got to get out. Sad episode in Atlanta history, very sad. And when we come back, we'll talk about jobs for the city of Atlanta. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
And we're really off our game plan right now, but we're talking through the break, and we need to touch on one other issue. And Megan, I go to you. The teachers who are convicted have their pensions at risk until the final appeal.
Yes.
And I don't know how that all works with, of course, you're the lawyer, I guess I could ask you. But I think teachers, this whole pension thing is another harsh part of it to me.
Yes, it's my understanding that the ones who took the deal lost their pension, and the ones that are, continuing through the appeals process or intend to continue through the appeals process still have their pension to hang on to. And so, I mean, that's a monetary reason to continue the appeals, through the appeals process for as long as they possibly can.
But isn't it U.S. law that anytime someone appeals, that basically the first
Yes.
verdict is pretty
It
much
is.
thrown
It
out
is.
and you have to go through the appeals process?
Absolutely.
So I don't think that these people's pension should be taken away from me. I mean, the folks who took the plea deal, they knew that they were basically admitting guilt.
Right,
And
no,
so,
but I'm just saying they have a monetary interest of continuing to go through the appeals process
And the
because they
lawyers
haven't
also have a
lost their
monetary
pension.
interest
Well,
in going through the appeals, too.
absolutely.
The interest may be monetary, but it also may be that they actually probably do feel that they maybe the punishment was severe and they want to basically try to appeal.
Sure.
And they have families just like these other defendants.
All right, let's go back on plan. Nice win for the city of Atlanta this week when Kaiser Permanente said they're going to move 900 high-tech jobs into the Midtown area. That's a win. That's the kind of thing that if Kasim Reed could stand for re-election, which he can't, it'd be a good thing.
Well, it is, and I think we would all agree it's another great example of cooperation between the mayor and the city of Atlanta and our economic development team and the governor.
Yeah, and let's not go away from that. I mean, one of the things that the mayor did a wonderful job of is that, look, let's face it, him and the governor, they're the two best recruiters we have in this state. And the mayor really talked about how Atlanta is, I think, the best, if not the best, one of the best for high-tech jobs. And so, what he does a lot that you don't see is that he really goes out and really focuses on recruiting these businesses to the city. So this is a big deal, and these jobs are not lower paying jobs.
No, I agree. And I've lost track of the number of companies that have announced they're moving into Atlanta.
So this is going to be a big boost for the Atlanta economy, and the mayor and the governor deserve big applause for this.
We're actually deemed now the Silicon Peach as opposed to the Silicon Valley because of our high-tech jobs and the plethora that we have here.
Yeah, no disagreeing there. That's all good. Now let's turn to Cobb County, where it's sometimes good and sometimes funny, starting with the premise that the county, Cobb County, Phil, is going to study electric buses to get federal grants down the road.
Right.
I love Republicans who just look right to Washington. They want their own streetcar, the streetcar follies of Atlanta. Sounds to me like Cobb wants to run electric buses that...
Well, they do, and as I've said, and I think everyone has agreed on the gang, and I don't know about you folks, but Cobb has been making this up as they go along ever since, with regard to transportation and parking, ever since the Braves deal was announced. Great thing for Cobb County. However, the taxpayers have got to be very nervous. I understand, and Commissioner Bob Ott, who represents that district, has done some town meetings. They're going to have different parking lots at different parts of the stadium, and then they got to figure out how to get buses in there in a trolley. Of course, the taxpayers are going to get in
Don't
a bridge.
forget the bridge.
The bridge that no one knows who's going to pay for.
Well then, Megan, while that story was looking progressive. We're going to study electric buses. We're going to look for federal grants, all that sort of thing. The leader of the Braves' effort in Cobb County suggests, and I really thought it was a week late April Fool's joke. He suggested, Megan, that we ride bicycles to the Braves games.
Okay, well, my office is relatively close, so I don't have a problem with that. But that is a little interesting, given that it's 285, and if I see a bunch of bikers on 285, I'm going to have a heart attack. But just to, as a little side note, he is apparently an inductee of the U.S. Bicycling Hall of Fame, so it's not completely out of the realm.
I missed that detail. How
right?
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh, how about that?
So he's a bicycler guy.
So, well, let's see. I don't know where Mike Plant lives, but he seems like an engaging guy. Now that you told me that, we ought to plot the route from his house to the new Brave Stadium and then put odds on how long he lives.
Sounds good.
On a bicycle.
Nice.
All right. When we come back, we'll turn to state news. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
We're going to have to move very quickly right now, and let's start with the Georgia Board of Regents. It voted this week to raise college tuition. No surprise there, I guess, but it seems to me that a 9% increase at Georgia and Georgia Tech, does that seem high? It does to me. What do you think, Megan?
It does to me. It really does. I'm shocked, frankly.
Yeah, I mean I
what
know
does
we've
that
been
put-
This is
in the throes of
This is the
recession.
fourth year in a row of these tuition hikes, and I hope that Chancellor Hank Huckabee said that we're going to have to level this off, and I hope it happens next year. I've always advocated that there's a lot of programs that they could be cutting. I know they're doing an aggressive building thing. I know we have to have our research in all of that, and the Chancellor has done a wonderful job with the consolidation of several universities. But this is going on all over the country, and we've got to level off on the tuition hikes. It's hurting the parents and the students.
All right, Governor Deal this week signed the medical marijuana bill. No surprise there. He supported it as it came out of the General Assembly. I don't think there's much to comment on that. It'll help some families. And the language has gotten sort of interesting. We're talking about almost like refugees from Georgia, and now they can come home. It's just kind of, but it is a good thing. This is inside baseball, but Larry O'Neill is the House Majority Leader down in the General Assembly, and he said he would step down if selected to a tax judgeship, a judgeship I've never heard of, and he got it. So he's stepping down. So, Phil, what happens next there?
Well, the governor appointed him to that tax job, and it's going to be a bloodbath, according to Representative Buzz Brockway, in terms of who's going to be running now for majority leader. You've got all sorts of names thrown out. Alan Peake, who did that medical marijuana bill, is officially announced. John Burns. You've got some other names. Mark Hamilton.
Sam Teasley,
you may
Chuck Martin.
know some more. Mark Hamilton. That's right.
Yeah, and we should definitely commend Senator O'Neill for his great leadership, and it's going to be sad to see him go. I mean, he's definitely been in the
I will
forefront.
tell you, just as a guy who went through the New Cities movement, specifically Dunwoody, Larry O'Neill was a stalwart for people who were advocating for, smaller government, closer to home, all that sort of thing. He did a good job. I want to turn my sights to, we're vamping now, we're just jumping around. But I want to turn my sights to DeKalb County. I know that we are used to be accused of spending too much time on DeKalb County, but you can never spend too much time on DeKalb County. And so I want to mention that Robert James, the county DA, indicted an aide to former Commissioner Elaine Boyer, Bob Lunston. Now, full disclosure, Bob Lunston is my good friend. But from what I can read and what I could find out in the 24 hours before we taped, he's accused of stealing something under $500. Under $500, and it goes to the level of a felony, 6 counts of theft by taking for the use of his county credit card, and 3 counts of making false statements, which I guess he said he bought office supplies or something. At these, Robert James, the DA, has one tenuous indictment of Burl Ellis, and you and I disagree on this. I think it was shaky grounds. The feds are doing the dirty work in DeKalb County, and now Robert James indicts a guy for allegedly stealing less than $500. What's the deal here?
Well,
Political cover?
Look, we can't pick and choose who we prosecute. I mean, if we're going to prosecute one, we've got to prosecute another. We've got to be strong against public corruption. We can't just, okay, it was $500, so next time don't do it. We can't do that. We set a precedent for every single person that we attack for doing something wrong. And he's the DA, so we expect him to do that.
Feds passed on Bob Lunston.
Well,
Feds looked at him hard
knowing
and
that Robert
passed.
James was going after him,
Oh,
I mean,
I
they are
don't know that that's
coordinating.
related.
Well,
I don't think Robert James
Do we
is
ever really
coordinated
want to
with
take
anyone.
a cue from the feds? Let's be clear.
Well, let's go back to something that the accused.
I mean, Tyrone Brooks, for example, pardon me for interrupting.
no problem.
Tyrone Brooks stole and pleaded to stealing
Right.
close to $1 million. I mean, I think we've got our.
Megan's right, though. If someone comes to the prosecutor and says, this man has been stealing, you have an obligation to go forward with that case.
Well, I don't think he was stealing. that's my
Well,
problem.
then it'll play out in the court of law.
But something that he said in his interview about a year ago, when I think he turned over some of basically he paid back some of the
Right.
purchases. He said that this was a direct result of the interim CEO coming in and really taking a harsh stance on the P card usage, created this committee, revamped the ethics commission. And so I think what happened is that, he paid back those, I think 10 or plus, but there was these 3 or 4 receipts.
And his daughter's car repaired.
And so, in defense of DeKalb, and I want to be fully disclosed because, we represent DeKalb County, I think that, as Megan said, I agree, the DA is basically going to prosecute anyone who commits corruption at the county. But also,
let me interrupt there. And there's a lot more for him to do that he hadn't done yet.
well,
I think more indictments are coming, as we talked about last week.
But I think they're coming from the feds.
Well, they are.
Not from the county.
The feds are doing a good job. You've got Mike Bowers in there.
But the good news is that you're trying to really clean up the county, clean up the image, and really trying to move it forward.
Which means we've got a lot of work to do.
Amen, Megan. Amen. I think the question is, will the DeKalb County Commission soon be out of business because they don't have a quorum? Just a little.
No, stay tuned. I think that'll be solved here pretty quickly.
All right, boy, look at this. We are so off scripted. I bring all these notes in, and we're done except for winners and losers. So we hope you'll stay with us for that.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
I'm really disappointed. I wanted to talk about Congressman Hank Johnson, which I thought would have stirred things up a little bit, but we ran out of time on that, so we're not going to. We're going to do winners and losers, and I will start with you, Phil.
All right. Well, one of the winners is the Atlanta Steeplechase. It's the 50th anniversary. Always a fun time. That's going on this weekend. And
You still go to that?
I still go to that. Yes, it's a great tradition.
You're supposed to be in your 20s and 30s to go
No,
to
it's all
Steeplechase,
ages.
right, Megan?
It's all ages.
Non-discriminatory.
It's all ages. Yeah.
Do you wear a white suit?
I've got my hat, but anyhow, my other winner is Ann Coulter. You'll love this, Theron, the fiery conservative activist. She's coming over to Kennesaw State University to speak to the college Republicans after they had the communist Angela Davis. I think finally there's a balance here.
That's a whiplash.
Yeah, that is a whiplash. And I've got to make as my winner an Atlanta author named Kevin Scott. He did a book called The Leper's Lessons. And it's a great read. We always try to plug our local authors. He did it with a fellow Christian from Indonesia. And Theron, it asked the question, what is our purpose here in life?
Right.
What's your purpose?
Just to be the most productive citizen I
There
can
you
be.
go. Okay.
There you go. Well, Theron, I'll just go with you. I'm not
Yeah.
ignoring you, Megan.
Yeah,
but I'll go with
my
you.
winner is going to be, I have 2 winners actually. Number 1, Gwinnett County. A poll showed that basically the Gwinnett County residents, 63% of likely voters, said that they're open and they want MARTA to expand to their county, and they're willing to pay a 1% sales tax. So big shout out to the Gwinnett County. I mean, you guys know this is decades of progress for Gwinnett County to want MARTA. Secondly,
And
I
they
know
defeated it in a referendum
Yeah.
by what, 70, 30
Yeah,
years ago?
but it shows the demographics that
Oh, yeah,
are changing.
no
I know
question.
there was an article that said that 5 counties are probably going to be majority minority in the next few years. The other winner is going to be Cobb County and DeKalb County school systems for basically giving their teachers a raise. Specifically, DeKalb County, who gave their veteran teachers who have been serving
4%.
6 years 4% raise. And you teased something really good last week. I'm going to tease a little something. Stay tuned. I think Superintendent Michael Thurman is going to make a big announcement around raising the minimum wage for the lowest paid workers in this county, and that's going to be coming up pretty soon.
Well, thanks for that. I wish that Michael Thurman would just be reappointed the school superintendent.
Well, I can confirm one thing. He's not going to run for CEO of DeKalb County. And then my loser, really quick, Dick, is going to be North Charleston and Tulsa, Oklahoma, with the incidents there of the shootings and killings of the young black men and how both police departments have basically participated in some shady business.
He's joining the Hank Johnson School. Megan, what do you have?
My winner this week is Senator Marco Rubio for announcing for president. I think that Marco has done a great job, or Senator Rubio has done a great job in Florida. He's really in touch with the younger voters and just generally the younger population. I think that speaks well for the Republican Party. My loser is Hillary Clinton. She, on the other hand, has done a really poor job of not only beginning her campaign, but just interaction with the public, or lack thereof. There's been none that has not been scripted. And she also, well, that's enough. She has an awful campaign symbol.
Cheers to Marco Rubio running for president. I'm going to drink some water to that.
Well, absolutely, because I love the Cuban emigres. Oh, look at that. We're out of time. We're gone.